Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the YouTube audiobook series for The Snake and the Rose, written by Abby Matthies. I am Abby, and today we will be reading chapter 13. Now, before we get into this, I do want to warn you that there are topics of violence and abuse within this chapter, so if you get triggered by these topics or are concerned by them, please skip to the next chapter. It's skimmed over briefly, it doesn't go into detail or anything like that, but just I'm letting you know right now so you don't go into the chapter not knowing. So, anyways, if you missed chapter 12, you can go to the description. There's a link down there for chapter 12. And if you're all good to go and you want to continue, we will read chapter 13, The Boyfriend.
Now, to save you some time in the story, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. Reason being that the third day with Abby wasn't very eventful. I scared the crap out of her when she woke up that morning. I kinda just popped in her room unannounced. However, that was really the only chaotic thing that happened. The rest of the day was full of small talk, awkward silences, and attempts of Abby trying to get used to me. I knew she still didn't like the idea of a demon walking next to her, but we couldn't do anything about it. Anyhow, fast forward to the fourth official day of being a protector demon to Abby. She went through her usual routine of waking up, eating breakfast, and kind of filling her time. Only today, she started packing a backpack of some sort. Within it, she put a sketchbook, a portable hard drive, and her wallet holding her license and such. As she was gathering her things, I decided to break the silence and talk to her. I'm assuming based off the backpack you have school today?
Yes, Darius, I do. Every day except Fridays until May 20th. Mondays are the days I have to actually go into class rather than online. Class starts at 1 and goes to 3:55.
Nice. But I guess I never actually checked. What is today's date?
It's Monday, April 26th, 2021.
She remarked, adding the year. Damn. I really have been gone for 13 years. I just kinda estimated that. I showed an expression of shock for a moment, but quickly wiped it away. I didn't want to open that can of worms again, especially if she was about to go to school. Thank you. Besides school, do you have anything else planned for today?
Um, oh, yeah, I do.
She said, pausing herself. I didn't like the tone of voice she used with that sentence. If the pauses were bad enough, the way she verbally said it made me feel uneasy. Okay, well, what else do you need to do? She started tapping her fingers on the strap of her backpack as she disconnected the eye contact with me. As we stood there, I started to think that what she was doing was one of her nervous tics. On average, people tend to have about 3 to 5 nervous tics. It was just a matter of which ones people had. I remember studying about them briefly in college, but that was a very long time ago. The motor tic that she was displaying was one of the more common tics found in people. After about a minute, though, she collected herself once more and started to speak.
Normally, after class on Mondays, I go to my boyfriend's place.
That's it? Why were you so nervous to tell me that?
Because not a lot of people like when I say that.
Well, why is that?
For some reason, people don't like how he treats me sometimes. I mean, I know he can be a crab ass, but We all can be. I know he loves me and I love him. So that's that.
After that sentence, the wheels in my head started to turn. How he treated her? That could have been a lot of different things. But also, she did have a point about people being crab asses sometimes. I am sure there were plenty of times I was a crab ass to Nala and she somehow stayed with me. But anyhow, I knew the only way to see what Abby meant was to see it for myself. I guess lucky for me, I didn't have to wait that long to see it. Okay, I'll take your word for it.
All right. We gotta go.
Abby then proceeded to grab her backpack and head to the door. As she was turned around, I quickly wiped the snake marking to check her health levels. All of her levels were good, but her thirst level was about halfway in the middle of the bar. Hey, make sure you pack a water or something. You might need it. I blurted out before she opened the door. She turned back around and I made sure I placed my hand back to my side so she couldn't see the hologram ability.
Oh, okay. I will.
She replied verbally, showing her confusion. And with that, she opened the door and we walked out of her room. Going through the kitchen, Abby met her mom saying that she was leaving and had a little interaction with each other.
Okay, sweetheart. I hope you have a good day at school. But I do have to ask, are you going over by your boyfriend's trailer after school?
Yeah, I am. Doing my usual and coming home.
Okay, but please be careful. I worry when you go over there. If something starts to happen and you need help, please call me. I don't want to see you get hurt.
That response made the alarm in my head sound. A parent should never have to say that to their child, especially when it comes to a relationship. Speaking as a parent myself, if I knew my son was dating someone I didn't like, I would give him a warning too. I would do everything that I could to persuade him to break up with them. However, no matter how hard either of us tried, the choice needs to be made by the child and not the parent.
Yes, Mom. I will. I love you.
I love you too.
And her mom wrapped her in a hug and squeezed her gently. Now I know Abby must think that she is just showing her love towards her, but I knew that was a signal that she was worried. She was worried her little girl was going to get hurt or worse. Fortunately for her, though, she didn't know about the protector demon standing only a couple feet away from her. If being a protector demon was my job, I was going to do my part and fulfill my duty. After the hug, Abby's mom kissed her daughter on the forehead, and we were off once more to head to her school. Now, the car ride was a little awkward for me. It wasn't that Abby was a bad driver or anything, it was just she had a small car, and because I was in the demon world, I phased right through the roof. I couldn't really talk to Abby, and all I heard was wind and cars passing by. After the half an hour ride, we arrived at her technical school and got out of her car. I straightened my hair and clothes while she was grabbing her backpack from the back seat. Once she was all settled, she decided to give me a couple of pointers and rules to follow while we were in her class.
I obviously can't talk to you openly like this in class, so you're gonna have to listen to my thoughts if that still works.
Okay, but let's quickly make sure it does so I don't fuck anything up.
Can big scary demon hear me? Test, test, one, two.
She said in my head. First of all, yes, I heard that. And second, if you could call me Darius from now on, that would be much more formal than Big Scary Demon.
I know. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure you could actually hear me.
She said, pausing for a second and continuing.
I don't want you to take over my body unexpectedly, so please don't touch me while I am out in public. And finally, I have an annoying girl in my class, and I wish to not create conflict with her. So please, no matter how pissed you get, don't interact with her.
I agreed to her terms and confirmed the information with her to make sure I got everything. Once we were settled, we then proceeded into the school to move on with our day. We were alone in the designated computer lab that she was in for a while with just the instructor. However, once it got to the actual class time, more students started filing into the room. Once class started, I took note that there were only 7 students in total. Very small class. But that annoying girl Natasha was there, and I saw exactly what Abby meant. She was so self-entitled that she thought the whole world should bow down to worship her. However, when it came to actually working with the computer animating part, she was absolutely clueless. She talked during class while the instructor was talking, blurted out any thoughts she had, stated the obvious, and always was a seeker of attention. Abby was right about her. She was annoying as hell, and I wanted to just go over there and shut her up. But I still wanted to please Abby and stay on her good side. So I obeyed the rules and sat in there for the rest of the time, silent. 3:55 p.m. rolled around slowly, and it was finally time to go. It was kind of funny to watch Abby leave because I could tell she was super annoyed. It was almost like she was racing out of the classroom without actually running. I was able to walk my normal pace with Abby speed walking. Once we got to the car, she decided to let it all out.
Oh my fucking god, is she annoying! How much of a fucking idiot do you have to be to ask those stupid questions? There was a Word document that explained everything! Read, bitch!
I started to chuckle as she was blowing up about this girl. I was thinking the same thing, but Abby was thinking something different.
I can hear you laughing up there. Are you laughing at me?
I ducked down into the car a little so that she could verbally hear me. No, of course not. I was laughing because I felt the same way. You took the words right out of my mouth. She widened her eyes, realizing she exploded at me for no reason. She shrugged herself back and calmed herself down before she spoke again.
I'm sorry. I thought you were laughing at me. Thank you for understanding. Now, to my boyfriend.
At that, she turned the key in the ignition, put the car in gear, and started driving. As she was doing so, I decided I wanted to get more information about Abby's boyfriend before we got there. So, your boyfriend lives in a trailer? I said, talking to her in the head so she could hear me.
Yes, I told you that he does. The name of the site is Rusty's Trailer Park.
Okay. Well, does he have a job?
Not exactly. He did, but he got laid off. His mom has been paying for his bills and such.
Well, what does his mom do for a living? She must make bank if she's doing that and paying for her own bills.
She is the owner of Noel's Craft Shack. It's one of the more popular craft shops here in town. She makes quite a bit of money from it. She was starting to branch out back in January, so I am sure she is sitting on a good pile of cash.
How come you moved out?
Didn't like abiding by his parents' rules. Didn't like being home at 9 p.m., having to dress formally in public, etc. Things like that. But somehow Mom still pays for him.
You know, when you put it that way, it makes it sound like he is freeloading off you guys.
I mean, if his mom is willing to pay for his stuff, that's her choice. She could cut him off at any point if she wanted to.
The only problem with that statement was that it was much easier to say that than to do it, especially if you are a parent figure. You don't want to see your child in dire need of assistance, but you also don't want to teach them to be a bum. I didn't know what to exactly think about him yet, so I decided to stop questioning her about him and see for myself the kind of relationship they had. As we got there, she pulled into some sort of rundown trailer park that looked like renovations were a necessity at this point. The trailers almost looked abandoned and destroyed with graffiti and dirt. Windows smashed in, doors barely on their hinges. It looked more like a place to sell drugs than a living area. The knots in my stomach were tightening the longer I looked at the scenery. Eventually, though, we got to a semi-decent trailer that looked in fair shape and intact. Windows were intact and the door was on its hinges. Once we pulled into the little driveway, we got out of the car and made our way into the trailer. As we walked in, the place looked like a pigsty. Fast food bags, wrappers, soda cans, and bottles and other garbage was scattered all across the floor. The smell reeked to high heaven, as like something died within the living area. The entrance was located in the kitchen and had a small wall separating it from what I assumed was the common area. The only reason why I said that was because I could hear building and fighting sounds coming from a TV. Abby continued on through the kitchen, trying to step around the trash, and made her way to the noise. As I suspected, the room with the noises was a living room that was just as messy as the kitchen. The only thing different was that there were piles and pieces of clothing added to the mess. Her boyfriend Chad was sitting in a recliner with a game console controller. He had light brown hair and eyes with stubble for a beard. He wore a white tank top and blue shorts. He honestly did look like he was from a trailer park. As Abby laid her eyes on Chad, she started to smile and speak.
Hey, baby. It's nice to see you.
He never gave a reply as he just continued playing his game. Abby waited a few seconds before repeating herself.
Chad, I know you're playing your game, but could you at least say hi?
As she spoke, I turned my head to the TV to see his character die from whatever he was playing. He groaned and threw his hands in the air in frustration as I gazed back at him. Then, with a stone look, Chad glared at Abby and bursted out his feelings.
What the fuck? Couldn't you see that I was busy? Because of you being a distraction, you made me lose my game of Fortnite. Thanks a lot, you annoyance.
I began to glare at this kid in shock. He willingly said that to his girlfriend that only wanted a simple hello from him. That proved Abby's statement of him being a crab-ass true. However, I wanted to see how much sometimes was to her.
Babe, I'm sorry. I just wanted a hello from you. I didn't think your game was too important.
Well, of course you thought that. You never think, you airhead. Don't do that again.
And he continued to interact with the game, going back to the main menu. Now I was getting really pissed off by this talk. She had way more brains than what he did and ever will have. He was being extremely rude to her, even though she was trying to be nice. I looked at Abby to see that she really didn't react. All she did really was wipe away her smile and looked at the ground.
Okay. Sorry, Chad.
She said after a moment. After that, she decided to walk behind his chair to get to the couch next to him. She, of course, had to move some clothing and wrappers to sit, so she just laid them on the cushion next to her. She began to sit, and Chad spoke again.
What are you doing?
I'm sitting down next to you. That way I don't have to shout too much to talk to you.
So you just shove that crap to the side instead of just cleaning it up?
I mean, for right now, yeah. I wanted to relax and hang out with you.
Again, I'm kind of busy to hang. So how about you be a good girlfriend once and clean? Be a solution in my life instead of a problem.
Abby then got up from her spot and started to clean. As she was doing so, I looked at Chad with angry eyes. What kind of a man calls their significant other a problem? She was literally doing nothing wrong. And there was no way Abby should be cleaning up after him. This wasn't even her trailer. He really did treat her like his garbage on his floor. However, the saddest part of all of this was that Abby was allowing it. As she was cleaning, she got to the floor by the TV and crouched down so she didn't get in the way. One by one, she started picking up clothes and folding them, when suddenly he started groaning and stood up out of his recliner.
God damn it, Abby! You made me lose again! What did I tell you about going in front of the TV?
Honey, I wasn't.
Don't fucking honey me!
Chad, how could I be blocking your view of the TV if I am on the ground cleaning? It's your own fault that you died.
Shut up, you little bitch! Just stop what you're doing and go make me a fucking sandwich. Maybe you will be better out of sight.
Abby then began to bow her head and got up off the ground without looking at him. I now began to glare at Chad with aggression, almost just as much as I do with Satan. Now I knew why everyone hated this relationship. It was abusive, verbal for sure. I just hope I didn't hear that it turned physical. Otherwise, he'll be dead meat. After my glare, I walked back to Abby as she was silently trying to open the refrigerator door. She wasn't saying anything, so I tried listening to her thoughts. The only thing I heard were mumbles and sounds that I couldn't make out. But that wasn't gonna stop me from getting to the bottom of this. This was not a healthy relationship, and I needed to confront her about it. Hey, I said, gently trying to get her attention. She didn't listen and kept trying to make that stupid sandwich. I could hear the TV playing loud noises again to, I assume, drown out the noises. And knowing that relieved me. With that in mind, I gently placed my hands on top of hers to stop her from what she was doing. She heaved an exhausted sigh and turned to face me. Before I go any further with this talk, are you okay? She didn't say anything, and just moved her eyes to gesture that Chad was in the other room and she couldn't talk. Abby, the TV is way too fucking loud for him to hear us. Just talk quietly. She looked at me with sad eyes, but gave me a different response.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's normal.
What do you mean by normal?
It's normal for this to happen between me and him. It's whatever.
No, Abby, it's not whatever. I need to talk to you about this. She broke eye contact with me and started to stare at the ground. She looked like she was ashamed of herself or guilty of everything that happened. So I wanted to clear that out of the air first. I want you to know straight out that everything that happened with your boyfriend just now isn't your fault.
Yes, it is. Everything is my fault in this relationship. I just can't seem to do anything right.
Abby, no, it isn't. Nothing is your fault here. Do you realize that this is a toxic relationship? She paused for a minute, fidgeting with her fingers. She continued to stare at them as she replied to my question.
Yes, I do.
Then why are you still in it? Why is a strong and independent girl like you staying with this coward of a man? At that statement, Abby lifted her head to me in frustration, and I could see she got fired up by what I said.
He is not a coward. If there's one thing I know, it's that he isn't a coward. I deserve to be in this relationship. This relationship is my responsibility, and I have failed to keep it in order.
Oh, really now? Then tell me this, Abby. Does a man call his woman names like an annoyance or little bitch when all she is trying to do is be her caring self? Last time I checked, I didn't treat my wife the way Chad treats you. When I finished my little rant, she gazed down towards the ground again. She then began to lean against the counter with her right hand as I continued my rant. I treated my wife with respect even before we got married. I never told her to clean after me or forced her to go make me a sandwich. She did that stuff willingly because she loved me. Another thing, a relationship works both ways. The other person has to put an effort along with yourself in order for it to work, and he isn't even trying. Are you truly in love with this ass?
No, I'm not. I lost the love for him a long time ago.
The fear started to rise in the pit of my stomach. The way she said that sentence made me assume different ideas on how that happened. But I knew now was the time to ask my question that I wanted answered. And what happened that made you lose it? Did he hit you? Has he done anything physically to you that you didn't consent to?
No. Of course not. He just started being an ass more often. He wasn't like this when I met him. But I guess now I am seeing his true colors.
Abby said, whipping her head up to me. I became relieved knowing he didn't physically touch her. Regardless, she still had to break up with him before things got worse. This relationship needs to end now. If you stay in it, this is only going to get worse. And to be honest, it could turn physical, and I do not want to see that happen.
I know, but He's gonna be so lost without me. I am like a mother to him.
I stared at Abby for a couple seconds with wide eyes. I couldn't believe she just said that. I was so flabbergasted that I felt my mouth open a little. Do you know how sad that sounds? You should never have to say that about yourself towards your partner. I don't care if he gets lost without you, and you shouldn't either. This is ending today.
And how do I go about doing that? When would be the right time to...
What the fuck are you doing?
Chad said, walking into the kitchen behind Abby. She quickly turned around and started to jitter.
Nothing, Chad. I was just...
You were just fucking this up just as much as you fuck everything else up? You can't even make a simple sandwich?
I was just lost in my thoughts. I'm sorry. I'll make you your sandwich.
No! Just fucking forget it!
Then, within one abrupt motion, he shoved Abby to get to the counter and wiped everything onto the floor. The bread, the meat, mayo, mustard, and the knife she was using. He winced after he was done as if he got hurt and began to look at his arm. As I examined it, I could see a small cut that was bleeding slightly. I figured that within his fit of rage, he was careless about the kind of knife she was using and cut himself as he threw his temper tantrum. He looked at the cut and then back at Abby.
You oversized fuckhead! Look what you made me do!
Abby backed herself up a little, stepping on my toes. I didn't care because of the situation at hand, but she realized she stepped on me and moved back forward. She then began to stand there fearful and started to stutter out of fear.
I didn't do that. You were the one who...
Shut the fuck up! Enough excuses! Maybe you need some sense knocked back into you!
With that statement, he rapidly brought up his left arm over his head and swung it to strike Abby in the face. She turned and caught herself on the counter from the amount of force he used in his slap. I immediately crouched to her level in terror. I was an idiot and didn't react fast enough to his slap. She started to whimper, but didn't cry. I glared back at Chad and started to advance towards him, when I heard a voice abruptly in my head.
Terry, no! Please! It's only gonna make it worse.
Abby, we need to get out of here, now! I scolded, trying to get her to leave while still following her rules we established from earlier. She shook her head, and Chad decided to chime back in.
Quit shaking your head and face me!
Abby kept still trying to regain herself from the slap. She also didn't reply back with anything, finally showing her resistance. However, Chad wasn't having any of it. He brought his right hand up to her chin, squeezed it tight, and hastily turned her and her body towards him. She tried to pull away from him, but he refused to let go.
Are you fucking done? Why can't you be a good little whore like you are and get on your knees?
Because I am not a whore.
Abby stated with fear and weakness.
Oh yes you are. I know about you and Damien, you lying sack of shit. I know you two are dating while we are together.
No, we are not. He is my friend, and I don't love him. I loved you.
Loved? What do you mean loved? You still love me.
No, I don't.
And with that response, Chad let go of her face and grew angry with fury.
You will still love me, even if I have to beat it into you.
He then brought his arm up again, and I examined the kind of stance he was in. I then quickly realized that he had a closed fist and was about ready to punch Abby. Now, I knew I had to step in, and fast. As Chad began to swing his fist towards Abby, I grabbed a hold of her shoulders and quickly threw myself into her body. After a split second, I quickly swung my arm up and caught his closed fist. I began to glare back at him, and I now stood face to face with the true monster.
I quickly closed my eyes, waiting for the impact of Chad's hit, when suddenly I felt Darius's hands upon my shoulders. He pulled me back slightly, and suddenly everything went black. I couldn't see anything again and felt disoriented. I tried lifting up my hand to look at myself, but it was so dark I couldn't see. I started to feel paranoid again and called out, "Darius? Hello? What happened? Where am I?" After a few seconds, a blue purplish light lit my surroundings, and I realized where I was. I recognized the queen-sized bed with the canopy and curtains, along with the fuzzy carpet, bookshelves, and beanbags. I was in that bubble thing again. The only thing different was that Damien wasn't here with me. But within a matter of seconds, that changed.
Abby, are you okay?
He said, calling from behind me. I quickly turned myself around to find him standing with all his clothes on. Upon his appearance, I began to cry and ran to him. He opened his arms as I came close, and I embraced him with all my might. At impact, I buried my face into his chest to find comfort, while he wrapped me in his arms.
Hey, what's the matter? What happened?
He then gently placed his finger under my chin to lift my head up to him. As he looked at me, his face turned worried and shocked as he started to touch my face.
Oh, Abby, what did that monster do to you? You're bleeding.
I grew confused as I brought my hand up to touch where he did. As that happened, I felt the blood transferred to my finger as I pressed into it. I didn't realize I was bleeding, and with that I began to cry even harder. Damien then wrapped his hands on the sides of my face to bring comfort to me and wipe away my tears.
Abby, I am so sorry. You are safe with me now, and he's not going to hurt you again.
But what about Darius? He's still out there with him. He could get hurt, I said, panicky, when suddenly he started to shush me kindly and interrupted.
He will be fine. He can handle himself. He is here to protect you. He is handling it. Now, let's get you cleaned up so we can cuddle, okay?
With that, I nodded my head, and he took me over to the bed to help aid me in my time of need.
Chad's face began to turn red with the amount of anger he had in his body. However, I was just as pissed off as he was. He thought beating women was okay to do. Well, he had another thing coming.
How dare you? You seriously think that it's okay to hit me like that?
I shouted, acting like Abby. He tried to pull his fist away from my grasp, but that only made me tighten it to make sure he would listen to me.
Let go of my fucking hand!
No! You will not hit me again! I have had enough! I will not take any of your shit anymore! You are gonna listen to the hard truth, you lazy fuck!
He then began to swing his right hand to punch my stomach, but I began to twist his left arm backward to make him recoil. It successfully worked, and he was now eye level with me. A little side note here, I knew how to physically fight and defend myself. I was actually forced to learn. With all the random fights that would occur down in hell, I wanted to make sure I could fight off whatever came my way. Within this situation now, I was happy I learned it and could put the knowledge to good use. I glared at him as he squirmed to break free from my grasp. Knowing that he was struggling, I continued on with my defense and started to quickly lift his arm up, with the twist still in it. As I began to reach the top of my arch, I used my left arm to grab his right side. This gave me a chance to spin him around to keep my leverage and grab his right arm to pin it against his back. And within one swift motion, I kicked his knees outward to make him fall onto them. And with that, he was now immobilized and was forced to listen to what I had to say.
Let's get one thing straight. It is never right to hit a woman, and your behavior is unacceptable. I've tolerated this for far too long, and I am fed up with your shit. I am sorry that you are a piece of shit and use others to take care of you. You don't take responsibility for your own fuck-ups and can't even do the simplest of tasks.
He tried to interrupt me with more rude comments, but I pulled on both of his arms to tighten my restraint, and he quieted down within an instant.
I am done with all this bullshit. I don't love you, and I never will again. You fucked that up yourself. Here is my breaking point. We are done. Clean up your own shit, make your own food, do your own fucking shit, because I am not coming back. Fuck you, and I hope you rot in hell for the things you have done to me.
After my rant, I kicked him forward to make him stumble to the ground as I let go of him. Reacting quickly, I ran for the door and exited the trailer, digging for the keys in Abby's pocket. As I continued, I quickly hopped in the car and locked it to make sure it bought me time. Then, with one swift motion, I placed the keys in the ignition. Looking back up, I could see Chad starting to come out the door, running towards the car. Then, with even more panic, I quickly switched the gears to reverse the car and backed up before he reached it. Once I was far enough, I did the same, putting it in drive, and sped out of there like a bat out of hell. I looked back in the rearview mirror to see him quit running and trying to shout at me. Breathing heavily, I decided to shakily call her mom so that there was at least one witness to this problem.
Hello? Abby? Are you okay? I can hear the car speeding, and you're breathing heavily.
No, Mom, I'm not. He hit me. He actually hit me.
What? Oh my God! Come straight home. He is not going to get away with this.
I am, Mom. I love you.
I love you too. I know you're panicked, but don't speed when you get to the road. I don't want you getting pulled over.
And with that, she quickly hung up, and I made my way safely back to Abby's house.
This has been Chapter 13, The Boyfriend, from the book The Snake and the Rose. Tune in to the next video for Chapter 14. Thank you for listening.